Fast thinking feels smart, but it often hides confusion. Richard Feynman showed that speed can block real understanding. When your brain rushes, it tries to jump from start to finish without walking through the middle. In this state, the mind mixes facts with guesses. Ideas feel clear only because you did not slow down enough to test them. In cognitive load theory, too many thoughts at once reduce clarity. The brain cannot hold structure and speed at the same time. Rushing is not a sign of intelligence. It is often a sign of pressure and habit. Clear thinking does not need speed. It needs order. When you slow the mind and remove mental noise, the real idea can finally appear. Clear thinking begins when you slow your mind and remove mental noise. Clear thinking starts with seeing how your thoughts move. People often feel certain only because their thoughts move quickly. Fast thoughts feel strong, but they are usually shallow. When you never stop to watch them, you mistake speed for depth. Metacognition is the skill of observing your own thinking. It turns your attention toward how you think, not just what you think. You begin to notice small signs. Your thoughts jump from point to point. You skip steps in your reasoning. You feel a push inside to get it over with, instead of working through it. These are marks of rushing. When you catch them, you pause. Even a short pause changes things. It creates space between the thought and your response. Feynman used this kind of awareness to stay honest with himself. He did not trust a thought just because it felt fast and sharp. He trusted thoughts that could survive slow, simple checking. You cannot slow your thinking until you first notice its speed. Simple words slow your mind and expose what is real. Feynman was known for taking complex physics ideas and explaining them in plain language. He believed that if you could not do this, you did not truly understand the idea. Research on processing fluency supports this. The brain understands and remembers ideas better when they are simple and clear. You begin by taking the idea that feels rushed and putting it into one short sentence using plain words. No special terms, no long phrases, just a direct statement of what is going on. This step forces your mind to move slowly. You cannot hide confusion behind complex language. Once you have one simple sentence, you add another that supports it. You build the idea as if you are explaining it to someone younger, but you do not turn it into a story. You stay factual and direct. As you do this, you feel which parts are solid and which parts are vague. Feynman used simple language as a test for his own clarity, not just for teaching others. You can use it the same way. Simple words slow your thinking and strengthen understanding. Big ideas become clearer when you cut them into small steps. A rushing mind tries to handle the whole idea at once. It jumps across many parts without checking each one. Feynman did the opposite. He broke ideas into smaller units so his mind could process them calmly. This reflects the idea of chunking. The brain works better with small units than with one large, noisy mass of information. You begin by writing the idea at the top of a page. Under it, you list 3 to 5 key parts. These are the main steps or components. Then you pick just one part and focus on it. You explain that part slowly, using simple words. You do not move to the next part until the current one feels clear. This method reduces mental overload. You are no longer trying to understand everything at once. You are solving one small piece at a time. Feynman's deep clarity came from this kind of patient, step-by-step work. Small steps slow the mind and make thinking clear. Clear thinking needs a clean base of real knowledge. Feynman often warned that the easiest person to fool is yourself. Rushing thoughts do this all the time. They mix what you truly know with what you only assume. Research on knowledge representation shows that when you separate facts from guesses, your reasoning improves. You can do this in a simple way. Draw 2 columns on a page. In the first column, write what I know. In the second, write what I assume. In the no column, only write things you can explain in simple language and support with clear reasons or evidence. In the assume column, write anything that feels unclear, second-hand, or based on trust in others. You begin to see that many parts of your fast thoughts belong in the second column. This is not a problem. It is useful information. It shows where you need to slow down and think more carefully. Feynman based his thinking on what he could actually justify, not on what simply felt right. When you do the same, your mind stops racing on weak ground and starts working from solid facts. Clear thinking grows when facts are separated from assumptions. Examples force your thoughts to move at a human speed. Feynman used simple examples to test whether an idea really worked. He knew that abstract thoughts can move too fast and hide confusion. When you apply an idea to a basic case, your mind must slow down and walk through each step. This is retrieval practice in action. You pull the idea out of your head and use it, instead of letting it sit there untested. You choose one simple example that fits the idea. Then you describe what happens, step by step, using clear language. You do not skip steps. You do not allow big jumps. As you move through the example, you notice where your understanding breaks or becomes vague. These breaks show where your thinking was only supported by speed. Once you see them, you can go back and fix those parts. Feynman trusted examples because they forced his mind to face reality, not just words. Examples slow your thinking and reveal the truth of the idea. Weak spots in your thinking are not defects. They are guides. Feynman treated confusion as a signal that pointed to the next step. When a thought felt rushed, unstable, or fragile, he did not ignore it. He went back and worked on that part until it became clear. This matches the idea of error correction loops. You find the error, adjust the structure, and then test it again. You can do this by marking each point where you felt lost during your simple explanation or example. Maybe you used a vague word. Maybe you had to skip a step because you did not really know it. Each of these is a weak spot. Next, you return to just one weak spot. You read more if needed. You ask for help if needed. Then you write a new, simpler version of that part using plain language. You test it again in an example. Over time, fewer pieces fail under slow testing. Feynman's depth came from many small repairs like this, not from one big insight. Repairing weak spots builds slow, steady understanding. Extra details often push your brain to move faster than it should. Feynman removed anything that did not help the idea. He understood that details can do two things. They can clarify, or they can distract. Cognitive load reduction shows that when you remove details that do not add meaning, you free mental space for real thinking. You begin by looking at your notes, your explanation, or your example. You ask which details truly help you understand the idea. Those you keep. Then you ask which details are just labels, side stories, or minor points that do not change the core meaning. Those you cross out. As you do this, the idea becomes smaller but stronger. Your mind has less to track. Because there is less clutter, you do not feel the urge to rush. You can move slowly through what matters most. Feynman reached depth through a clean view of the core, not through a pile of extras. Removing clutter slows your thinking and strengthens clarity. A simple structure gives your mind a path to follow. Feynman used mental models to keep his thinking organized. A mental model is a small, clear structure of an idea in your mind. It shows the parts and how they connect. Mental model theory suggests that structured ideas are easier to reason about and harder to distort. You can build such a structure by writing the main idea at the top, then listing the key parts beneath it in order. You might write, first this, then this, then this. You keep the structure short. You do not add every detail, only the bones of the idea. When you think using this structure, your mind moves in a set order. It does not jump randomly between fragments. This naturally slows your thoughts and makes them more stable. Feynman kept such inner structures for many topics, which helped him think calmly even about complex things. A simple structure helps. Your mind thinks slowly and clearly. Slow thinking becomes powerful when you use it in everyday situations. Feynman's way of thinking was not limited to physics. He used clear, slow reasoning in many parts of life. Transfer of learning tells us that a skill used in many contexts becomes stronger and more automatic. Slow thinking can become such a skill. You can practice this by adding small habits to your day. When someone asks you something important, pause for a moment before answering. In that pause, you check what you actually know and what you only assume. When you face a task, write down the main steps instead of holding them all in your head. When you learn something new, explain it in simple words that same day. Over time, these small acts train your brain to avoid rushing. You begin to treat thinking as a process, not a race. The rush slowly loses its power. Clarity takes its place. Slow thinking becomes natural when practiced every day. Your brain changes based on what you do often. Neuroplasticity is the term for this. It means the brain rewires itself through repeated patterns of activity. If you often rush your thoughts, your brain becomes good at rushing. If you often slow down, break ideas apart, and explain them simply, your brain becomes good at that instead. You can train this by repeating a simple routine. Each day, pick one idea that matters to you. Notice how your thoughts move around it. Put it into plain words. Break it into parts. Use a simple example. Fix one weak spot. Remove one piece of clutter. This does not take long, but it is focused. As you repeat this with many ideas, your brain learns that this is how thinking works now. Over time, slow, clear thinking becomes your default mode instead of a special effort. Repetition trains your brain to slow down. The core lesson is simple. Clear thought depends on deliberate slowness. Richard Feynman showed that real understanding does not come from speed or complexity. It comes from slowing down enough to see the idea clearly. When you observe your thoughts, use simple words, break ideas into parts. Test them with examples, repair weak spots, and remove clutter. Your mind becomes calm and precise. Research on meaning-based processing supports this. When ideas have clear meaning and structure, thinking becomes more accurate and more stable. Slowness is not a weakness. It is the method that allows meaning to form. You begin to see that you do not need to fight your brain. You need to guide it. With steady practice, your brain learns to stop rushing and to think in slow, clear steps. This is a skill, not a gift. It is something you can build. Clear thinking grows when you slow your mind and work step by step.